Well, Zelensky was in Rome yesterday, in Rome visiting um, Prime Minister Meloni, President Mattarella, and the Pope himself in the Vatican. Uh, so he was in the center of Catholic Church, capital of Italy, and today he is still in the capital of Germany, in Berlin. He has met President Steinmeier and Prime Minister Chancellor Scholz. I think he wanted to convince the Germans to support his idea of a fighter jet coalition among European efforts in the airfield in this war in Ukraine against the Russians. Yes, got already a lot of support in money. Um, Chancellor Scholz has said that Germans are supporting in weapons, in tanks and ammunition and artillery, 2.7 billion euros. Since the beginning of the Russian invasion, Germany has already spent 17 billion euros in this war effort. So they are totally embedded in this war, the Germans. But you won't support this idea of the fighter jets because I think Germany lacks that capability. That is another thing that people are forgetting about all these sacrifice that the Europeans are doing. They are sacrificing their population, their pockets, their life standards to win a war that they are not directly part of. So this is a war from a third country against another third country, of a conflict that has already 9 years ongoing, with the meddling and actually the you were I mean Germany and France were part of they were trying to solve diplomatically this conflict in the Donbass, and now they are in one part against another part, which is not, I think, not of our interest as Europeans. But as a matter of fact, Germany, for example, has 17 billion, spent 17 billion euros. And I was seeing on the news here, exactly from this week, last week, that now the Ministry of Health Ministry here in Germany, there are missing for the system itself. They need 17 billion euros. Total coincidence, the same amount they have spent in 1 year to a third country is what they need in their health system of Germany. The engine of the European Union are in this problem right now because of all the consequences, not to talk about the sanctions and in energy field, problems, and the raise of the energy costs for the people, for the families, and for the industry. Not counting with this, 17 billion disappeared to support a war that we still don't see an end. We don't have nothing that says that it goes to one side or another side. I'm not saying that Russia will win this war. It's not being easy. I think President Putin has even not calculated that the Europeans would be so stupid to join this effort economically. I think all the Russian strategists thought that the Europeans would be rational and not meddle in this problem, but that was not the case, clearly. They fully supported from the first day. Actually, they were waiting for this, and they were doing everything to cause a reaction in Russia to start this war. I mean, the implication of Russia in the Donbass. And now we know all this, but the Russians should know also this in advance. And now we have 30 countries plus some other countries have 30, 40 countries fully support with money against Russia. And this is a problem. This is absolutely a problem. Economically, in terms of weapons, ammunition, I think they can sacrifice the Ukrainian territory and the Ukrainian people and sacrifice the European economy to maintain this war for some more months until Russia starts crumbling, and that can happen also because Russia doesn't have the weapons, the military help of China, for example, which is the most important partner. And by the other side, the Ukrainians have the full support of the United States, the Germans, the Europeans, and this is of course very difficult. But we might reach a point that turns everything in other direction, because the Europeans will lack ammunition, weapons. The European society won't stand this long. The consequences and the stress and everything. Actually, it came right afterwards the COVID era. So there's already 3-4 years that people are not making their lives normally as it was before 2020. So there's a lot of discontent among the Europeans, and that we will see sooner or later the demonstrations gaining more power and strength and visibility. And let's see what's happened also in the next elections for the European Union, because it might be a sign that these guys are pushing too much the strength, and it won't work for long, this situation. But the matter fact is that the Germans are fully supporting economically, but not entering in this air coalition of the fighter jets as Zelensky planned. That was his goal in Berlin, and he could not reach this goal. By the other side, yesterday there was a big explosion. The Russians had hit a lot of strategic points in all Ukraine, in the west. There was this city, I don't remember the name, it's a very small city, but with a big weapons depot and fuel depot. This big explosion, you can see the black, like a mushroom, like a nuclear bomb. It looks like that. It is not, but is very. It was a big issue. But by the other side, there were 2 fighter jets that were downed in Bryansk. This is already Russian territory, extreme west, near Belarus and Kharkiv, this area, but already in the Russian area. 2 fighter jets and 2 helicopters downed. Firstly, the Ministry of Defense said that the war was an accident, but that was only 1 or 2 from these 4 machines. But at the end, there were 4. This is not a coincidence. They were hit by either a missile from the Ukrainians or drones in territory of Russia. So I don't know if we are already in this counteroffensive that they were talking about, because Zelensky said that there was not the time already to start a counteroffensive. The thing is that they cannot start a counteroffensive. The other day there was an interview with the former ambassador to Germany, this very controversial guy, Andrei Melnik, to the German press, to Welt or Bild, to Welt, and he said that would be a very problem because it's a very wide front in the areas occupied by the Russians, and if anything fails, then would be a big mess. And I think he is right. So this is not the right time to start the counteroffensive. By the other side, on Twitter there was a post by the Ministry of Defense from Ukraine, which is kind of childish, and I think that is also. I mean, this is not the I don't see any other country in European Union or NATO doing this kind of jokes. And there was Zelensky and Sunak in a helicopter laughing, and then saying something like, when we realized that the border between the front and Crimea, there is only 297 kilometers distance, knowing that they have both weapons from this Storm Shadow missiles with a long range missiles, 300 kilometers range. So they were joking about that. So there was implicit that they would hit Crimea soon and making fun out of it. I don't believe it's quite responsible to make this kind of things, knowing that they don't have the conditions to make the counteroffensive in a short term. So nothing new at the end. A lot of news, but we still cannot see in either direction it goes. If the Russians will take or won't take, or the Ukrainians will reconquer the Donbass or some areas, Bakhmut. There is also very contradictory news that Wagner has conquered more territories, that the Russians have lost a lot of territory. It's very contradictory, everything. There's a lot of information, a lot of fog. We have to be very careful to make an analysis about what is going. But these are the facts are here. There's a lot of happening now, and it will happen a lot in the next times, this week, next week. We see that Europeans are not giving up on this war. This is very complicated because it will suffer. We are already suffering, and we call this problem in the health system here in Germany. By the way, the Germans have extra still 100 billion euros to the military for the next 2 years, and this is something that we are not counting, and this will pay an invoice to the daily life of the German economy. We are seeing now the starting of the problems of all these decisions by our politicians. Today there are elections in Turkey. Erdogan, let's see what happened. Another thing about all this, what's happening now in Ukraine, there is an article by Phil Butler, a friend of us. I will put here the link down below from the New Eastern Outlook. Good article that says that this is an illusion. Basically is what it says, that is an illusion from the allies here in Europe that we are winning a war against Russia. I understand his point of view. Actually, at the end, it's like there is some burglars want to rob you with a knife, and you have a gun or a machine gun even. You you don't want to mess with them. We will, or they have not a knife, only with the fist. We will, you will fight with them. You won't use the machine gun at the first because you want to do things right. But at the end, if they start using knives and stuff, you will use the machine gun. And this is what is happening now in Russia. We cannot never forget that Russia has not declared war on Ukraine and that they have a huge nuclear capability. Well, here is the link down below, and we will see you soon to talk about Turkey. See you later.